Hey, that last section was great, wasn't it? You had an opportunity to get into organizing your business, and you saw that property information sheet, which is going to be a big part of your business. Make sure that you did your homework, which was to call somebody up and run through the property information sheet so that you're familiar, you've done it a couple times, and you know what the information is that you need to get from a homeowner. All right, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already. Now, the next segment, the next step that you're going to be taking, okay, and this is an important big step right now, you're going to be actually having access to the scripts that I use when I'm talking to homeowners, talking to banks. This is such an important part to me of the whole process because it prepares you mentally for getting on the phone. And so many of us, we just overlook this process. We say, oh, no big deal. I know how to talk to strangers. I know how to talk to people. But you have to understand this. Are you leading them to a decision, or is it just leading to up in the air, nobody taking action? My whole goal is to show you how to lead people to a decision, and that's the goal of these scripts right here. So in this next section, you're going to see some of the scripts that I use, talking to homeowners, talking to banks, handling some of the objections that you're going to hear from homeowners, some of the questions that are out there that you may or may not know the answers to, and how you can overcome them and move the process forward so that every single deal that you do, you know where you stand. It's not like it's up in the air or it's a maybe. You have a yes or a no. I'd rather have a no than maybe I'll get back to you. I'm all about driving people to a conclusion, to a decision, and that's your goal here with these scripts. So in the next section, get inside the mind of this right here, the mind of Minolta, and see how I work as far as my mentality towards working the phones, but also the scripts that I use to make it happen. Your obvious homework on this will be to practice these scripts, use these rebuttals a couple times, role play with some of your business partners, role play with your friends, whatever it might be, even if it's just by yourself. One of the ways I got good at this was actually doing this stuff by myself, working it, even if nobody wanted to work it with me. And now I've become a master of it, and you can too. So enjoy this next section. It's one of my favorite sections, and it's all about the art of the phone sale and having the right scripts to do it with. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you at the end of this particular segment. Art of the sale. And this is even face-to-face. And we're going to do a little bit of scripting. It's one of my personal favorites because I do have a background in this area. It's something that I've spent a lot of time on the phone. There was a time in my life I really made 400, 500 calls in a day, and I did that consistently. Some people talk about that. I've really done it. I kind of learned to like it. That might make me a little demented. But there's some lessons that come with doing that, and there are certain steps to any phone call, any phone conversation, and I want to make it clear what those steps are, and there's a pattern to a lot of this stuff. Number one, you're opening. Make sure that they hear your name. They hear maybe if you have a company that you're addressing in the beginning, you're clear about that. They know why you're calling. Your aura, your tone on the phone is powerful. There's a warm-up. What's the goal of the warm-up? In basic terms, and this will go into great detail tomorrow, but the basic goal of the warm-up, let's get them to like you just a little bit. They don't have to love you, but if they like you just a little bit, that's important. Building rapport. I build rapport with every single person that I might talk to on a phone conversation or face-to-face, not just because I want to do business with them, but because I know that they need to trust me a little bit and like me a little bit before they'd say yes to ever wanting to do business in the first place. Make them aware of their need. If there's a need for some specific reason that you called, make them aware of that need. Not everybody knows that they have an actual solution in you. You are the solution. You got to believe that, though. This goes a little bit into your beliefs. Cite examples of things you've done in the past, maybe a hypothetical story. Here's how I helped this individual out. Build towards your close with hypothetical test closings, I call them. I'll give examples of that later today. Earning the right to close, assuming the sale, and then closing with confidence. We're going to go into the workbook. It'll be in the beginning section for those of you who have the workbook. And the script is one that we'll talk about. And I'll break down a little bit of the information that's actually in this script right here. And I'll do it myself, and I'll play both sides. But it usually starts out with somebody that calls me and says, "Hello, how can I help you? Is Bob there?" Hello, yes, this is. I've received a letter here saying that you wanted to buy my house. That's Bob. I received a letter here saying that you wanted to buy my house. That's maybe what the direct mail piece may have said. Yes, I'm looking to buy a property for myself in your area. I also happen to be an investor, so I'm dealing with all types of situations. Now, the letter said I'm looking to buy a house, but in this particular case, I'm also mentioning that I'm an investor as well. So I'm looking to buy a property for myself in your area, and I'm also an investor, so I'm used to dealing with all types of situations. Why am I saying that? I want them to know that even if they're in a tough spot, I'm not just some individual that's only limited to knowing how to buy a house in a perfect condition. I'm not just someone that's out there and able to go to a realtor and say, can you help me get this done? I'm able to also talk to them maybe about their issue. Let me ask you a few questions to make sure this is a house I'm interested in. Let me ask you a few questions to make sure this is a house that I'm interested in. That's what I'm saying. Now, yes, I sent a letter saying that I'm interested in purchasing a property, but now I'm saying, let me ask you a couple questions to determine whether or not I'm interested in actually buying this property. I flipped a little bit of the distinction around there. That letter you received was sent because the public record might have indicated that you may have been behind in payments at one time. Is that still the case? I don't want to come out and say, you're behind in payments almost in an accusatory manner. It's more like the public record indicated you might have been behind at one time. Is that still the case? I'm confirming some information right now. Well, yes, why? That's what Bob might have said. Well, I simply look to buy property in situations where the seller may be a bit motivated, and sometimes being behind in payments is motivation enough. In fact, many of the people I talk to owe more money to the bank than the house is worth. Would you also say that describes your situation? In fact, many of the people I talk to owe more money to the bank than the house is worth. Would you say that describes your situation? You can see right there, you might get the answer to your question as to whether or not this is a short sale just with that question. And the way that it's worded is also not overly intrusive. Do you currently have the house listed with a real estate agent? Yes. How long has it been listed? 4 months. Has there been much action on it? Any offers, any foot action? Very little. So if I were to make an offer to you that was equivalent to what is currently owed to the bank, I'd assume you'd be interested in talking further, right? So if I were to make an offer to you that was equivalent to what is currently owed to the bank, I'd assume you'd be interested in talking further, right? At this point, explain what a short sale is, educate a little bit at that point, get the entire property information sheet filled out. Now you see how this document works with the property information sheet. Expect questions, and what are those questions that might come up? It could be those 6 questions that we had very early in our seminar today that went over 6 things that commonly come up. You have these 3 documents together, and you're seeing how the pieces of this puzzle can kind of work together. In closing, I need you to grab a pen. There has to be a little bit of a taking control of the conversation. I need you to grab a pen at this point. At this point, what I do normally is have you gather all the documents I just asked you for. Once it's gathered, I'd like to have you come out to the house, snap a few pictures, and have you sign off on some more documents, including a contract to sale. I'll touch on what those documents are. Contract to sale, borrower's authorization, and the power of attorney. And once that's complete, we can get this thing off to the bank and start the short sale process. I assume that's fair enough, right? And expect questions right there. Expect a little bit of resistance. What I talk about is expect resistance, but play with that resistance knowing that it's going to come. Don't expect that everybody's going to be ready to take action with you right away. Bob, I look forward to working with you. When do you think you'll have all those documents ready for me? Okay, fair enough. Getting back to the class that I mentioned, that is tomorrow from 12 until 6. That class came about because really the short sale mentorship program that I had. I was getting a lot of individuals who knew a lot about short sales at this point. They might have even been involved in a handful of deals, but they were saying to me that one of the issues that they had was dealing with all the different parties. And I'm talking about dealing with them from the communication side. The realtors that are involved, the title companies, the actual bank themselves. Some people that are students of mine actually negotiate their own deals. Dealing with the mortgage company. All the processes that start out dealing with the homeowner. This is a major part of the process. And I was getting the same questions and roadblocks over and over. And I had a realization about communication was that certain things that I did after hearing some of these calls, I would start to monitor and listen in on certain calls that some of these students were doing, and I would see them presenting roadblocks for themselves, stepping into their own traps and saying, why would you bring that? I'm thinking to myself, why would you bring that up during the course of a conversation? I would never have said that. You know, things like, well, if you want to have your accountant look at this before we got started, that's almost anti the direction. They called you for a reason, guys. These people will call you because they want somebody to step up and take the chance to work with you. They're just looking for a little bit of confidence on your part and for you to control the conversation a little bit. That's what they want. But you have to believe that. So this stuff was real to me, but I mentioned that it became new to other people. And this went on for a period of time with different students, and I said, this is a missing link. This is a real key part that people need to understand. So ideas on my part started to form, and whereas I was once the student, I realized that some people do this, they do it almost subconsciously, but a few people actually teach this. And why is that? Because you have to kind of understand what it is that you're doing without thinking about it. And I broke it down, I wanted to understand it, and this class tomorrow is really the story of my life, my experiences, how communication has played a role. It's interwoven with salesmanship, charisma, scripting. Much more of the scripts that we just saw right there is going to be part of this class. It relays the story back to you in a way that's going to educate and entertain you as well. It's not Psychology 101. It's not NLP. Does anybody know what NLP is? Neuro-linguistic programming. But it does contain elements of each. So it's a class that's going to touch on some established sciences out there, but it's a class that's even bigger than short sales. I've related it by calling it salesmanship, scripting, and the short sales. It's going to be on specific scripting in short sales, but it is bigger than that. It's going to apply to life. Why the need for it? The need is evident. The need is out of a need that it's the students that I've worked with had. And it's about moving the deals forward, being persuasive, being a closer. If you're not a closer already, it's a learned thing. You can learn to become a closer. And becoming an entrepreneur is part of that as well. Running a real business without you, outsourcing certain things, making all these things much easier. And the benefits is that just like this class, you can walk out at the end and start applying immediately a lot of the things that you'll learn. And I recommend a certain way to go about applying these things. We break down what you should maybe work on first, different techniques that you want to apply as soon as you walk out the door, and maybe things that are a week away or 2 weeks away. And it's difficult no longer, I say difficulty no longer having the same meaning. Things that you might perceive to be difficult won't have the same meaning or the same difficulty level to you. It's now a different situation, and you're pushing things forward. Questions that come up a lot on the phone, beyond just the 5 or 6 that we mentioned, I'll get into other things that will pop up that really don't have a yes or no answer. So dreams don't seem impossible anymore.
It's all about the company, Rivers of Income, generating multiple streams of income, the short sales being huge right now.
He actually takes the time to go through things and walk you through them.
I think he's given a lot of tools and he's given a lot of information.
I think he's very educated and knows his business.
Get here now. Immediately. Just make it happen.